Welcome to Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Listen in as we journey to some of Italy's most beautiful places in the company of those who know them best, the families who grow grapes and make fabulous wines. Through their stories, we will learn not just about their wines, but also about their ways of life, the local and regional foods and specialities that pair naturally with their wines, and the most beautiful places to visit. We have a wonderful journey of discovery ahead of us, and I hope you will join me. Welcome to Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Today we travel to the beautiful wine hills of Bardolino above Lake Garda to meet my guest, Erika Marchesini, from her family Marchesini Wine Estate. Thank you very much for being my guest today, Erika. How are you today? I hear it's incredibly hot in the Veneto over these days.
Ciao Mark, buongiorno. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm fine, and here the summer it's incredibly hot. We are having such a unique, I hope, season. The weather is particularly warm, particularly hot, of course, and dry. So we are, of course, a bit scared about this. The vines are plants, they don't need a lot of water, but what scares us is the general situation of the world, the global warming, of course. And, we had 3 winters with much less water, with much less snow on the mountains. And so it means now we can see the problems. And so honestly, we have we are scared.
Yeah, I can understand that. It's a story I've heard, from many other producers. The climate change, the effects are happening so quickly. The temperatures are very elevated. I guess perhaps the pergola Veronese is a system of training that helps. Tell us a little bit about where you are, about the Bardolino area. Describe it, because our listeners would like to have a picture of this beautiful landscape with the beautiful Lake Garda on your doorstep.
I hope to be able to take you here on these hills. We are on the hills of the Lake Garda. Here the climate, it's particular, it's unique. We have a particular climate, a Mediterranean climate, exactly. So yeah, it's a perfect place to grow up vines and of course olives. You told just a little bit about the pergola Veronese, that is our main training system. We love the pergola, of course, because the pergola has a special climate. The bunches on the pergola Veronese are hanged on the plant, so they are protected by the leaves, and of course the breeze of the lake can help us to keep the vineyard like air conditioned, because of course it keeps the bunches fresh and dry. So this is the most important thing, especially during the summertime, because we perfectly know that drier and fresher the bunches are, healthier they are.
That's very interesting, because I think in the past decade, some producers were deciding to not use the pergola Veronese because it's very labor intensive, isn't it? It's hard work reaching up to harvest those bunches and to.
Of course. The problem, if it's not a problem exactly for us, but the pergola Veronese, it's honestly expensive. It takes a lot of investments in terms of efforts, time, of course. Anytime you work, you go in the vineyard, any job you make, it's time and of course money. But at the same time, if we keep the pergola, if we grow the grapes in the right way, if we make the selection of the grapes, if we keep the vineyard in a good condition, we from the Pergola Veronese, we can obtain very high quality grapes. Of course, in this moment, we have to, the bunches are protected by the leaves, but when later in August, normally in mid-August, at the end of August, when the days start to become a little bit not so hot like now, exactly, but and the nights start to become a little bit fresher, we can start leafing, and so the bunches will receive a little bit more sun.
Okay, so the leaves are protecting during this hot, really blazing sunshine. Just so our listeners understand, I just want them to know that this is also one of the most beautiful and attractive systems of training. It looks wonderful when you visit the Bardolino wine hills to see these beautiful pergolas and the bunches of grapes hanging down. So it's very different from Spalliera or the Gio or different systems on wires. But it's really one of the most beautiful as well as effective for your area forms of training. So it's great that this tradition is carried on. Now, Erika, tell us a little bit about tradition and your family, about the history of the Marchesini Winery and how long your family have been involved in winemaking.
Okay, so the business has started with my grandfather Plinio in 1970. My grandfather was a poor farmer. He was a sharecropper for the Count of Lazise for the Count Cavazzocca. He worked as a sharecropper for many years. And in the 50s, he was able to buy the vineyard of Isanti. So the vineyard he worked as sharecropper for this time, and so he was really proud of this. This vineyard is a vineyard we take in the heart, of course, because it is the first vineyard he bought. 10 years later, in the 60s, he bought the vineyard here in the vineyard of La Valesana, where we have today the cellar and 1 hectare of vineyard. Close to the vineyard of La Valesana, we have our house, and this house had a small underground cellar. So from that moment, from the 70s, he decided to transform his passion for winemaking into a business. So it was it was a very good time for the Bardolino wine. The 70s and the 80s were a very, very good period for the Bardolino wine, of course. Bardolino was the main red wine for the Italians, so the wine to take every day on the table. He started the business in the right moment, of course. He was good in winemaking for sure. And he started selling the Bardolino all over the north of Italy. He delivered the wine door to door with his truck. 10 years later, in the 80s, my father, who has other working experiences in other wineries here around for 10 years, decided to join my grandfather, and they worked together for almost 30 years, because fortunately my grandfather worked since the last hours of his life. Today, my sister is working beside my father. My sister Georgia is an enologist. She had the graduation in the Enology University of Verona. After a couple of years of where she worked in other wineries here around, she decided to start to work here with my father. So today she is following the vinification, of course, the jobs in the vineyards. I'm more front office because I'm following the relationships with our importers, with our customers, the wine tastings, of course, and all the office jobs. And so we are all the family is working here. Of course, my mother is helping us in anything.
That's a really beautiful and important story, Erika, to hear how from the 70s, this is the mezzadria you're talking about, is that right? Okay, and so the family had been sharecroppers, as you said, perhaps cultivating a little bit of everything because you were a self-contained little farm then. And then your grandfather was able to purchase land and actually become a producer in his own right. That's an important story in the story of Italian wine as well, because it was such a social change when the Mezzadrio was stopped. And it's not that long ago. We're talking about just a couple of generations. And then the winery was built up by your father, and now the next generation is there. So it's a really important story, and I think that that's important for that continuity in the wines. Let's talk about the wines, the grapes you grow then, and the wines that you make.
So we are based in the Bardolino wine region, exactly in Lazise, so in the classical Bardolino wine region, in the heart of the wine region. And our grapes, our main grapes, are four autochthon grapes: the Corvina, Corvinone, Rondinella, and Molinara. They are, of course, probably you know for sure the Corvina and Corvinone because they are the queen grapes of Verona. They are our favorite grapes, of course, to give spiciness and red fruit notes to the wine. But at the same time, we love a lot the Rondinella and the Molinara. And Rondinella and Molinara are grapes, are mineral grapes. We use them both for Bardolino and Chiaretto. So these two wines that are brother wines, because they are obtained by the same grapes, are fresh and fruity wines. They are exactly mineral wines because, of course, the minerality that comes from our soil, from the particular soil we have here on the lake, it's the most characteristic. Is the characteristic of these two wines.
Thank you for listening to Italian Wine Podcast. We know there are many of you listening out there, so we just want to interrupt for a small ask. Italian Wine Podcast is in the running for an award, the Best Podcast Listening Platform, through the Podcast Awards, the People's Choice. Listener nominations is from July 1st to the 31st, and we would really appreciate your vote. We are hoping our listeners will come through for us, so if you have a second and could do this small thing for us, just head to ItalianWinePodcast.com from July 1st to the 31st and click the link. We thank you, and back to the show.
Okay, so we're talking about a similar uvaggio or blend of grapes as in Valpolicella, but it's at that terroir, that soil, the rock below the soil that makes a different style of wine, a lighter red, would you say? Bardolino, I think of as fresh and a delightful red, mainly to drink young.
Yeah, sure. The terroir makes the difference between the Valpolicella and the Bardolino, of course. And Bardolino, it's a light ruby wine. When you put the wine, the glass of wine on a white paper, you can see through this wine because it is transparent. And I love to say that it's like a person that has an open heart, an open mind, because it is a real easy, elegant. Bardolino is really a wine that it's like a friend because that it's honest and it's really a unique wine. It has some characteristics. It's easy to drink. You can enjoy a glass of Bardolino a bit fresh in the summertime, especially during these hot days. Of course, it is a wine to enjoy, not exactly very, very young, because it has 4 or 5 years of potential aging for sure. But we love to enjoy it in a couple of years from the harvest, of course. The Bardolino has the brother that is the Chiaretto, obtained by the same grapes, of course, with the rosé vinification, and the Chiaretto is the young and fresh brother of the Bardolino.
Okay, so the Chiaretto is a rosato, but quite a full-colored rosato. Is that right? Is that how you make it?
Yeah, the rosato, it's light pale of rosé. It has some pink and purple shades, of course, but it's not dark. It's a very rosy, very rosa color. It has a color that it's really lovely, and of course. we decided to bottle this wine with a twist cap to keep this color as longer as we can, because the rosé wines are very delicate. They can change the color very quickly. So this is why we need an hermetic closure, like the twist cap is, to keep the color as longer as we can.
Okay, and a wine that you really want to drink when it's fresh and young and full of zest and life.
Yeah, we have two rosé, two Chiaretto, of course. Our Chiaretto Classico is an easy drink wine, a fresh wine, very elegant and mineral, of course. And then we have Coraline, that is our selection of Chiaretto. It comes from a selection of grapes because we reduce, of course, the production per hectare in order to have more concentration to have better quality grapes. Coraline is an aromatic rosé wine because we work in the cellar with the fine leaves before the fermentation in order to give more wine and perfumes to this wine. We recommend to enjoy the Classico Chiaretto in 2 or 3 years from the bottling. Coraline, that is our selection rosé, our selection Chiaretto, it's a wine that has a longer life. It is bottled with the cork, not with the twist cap, to let the wine evolve during the aging. And it's a wine to enjoy in 5-6 years from the vintage, from the harvest.
Okay, so that's very interesting, the two different styles of Chiaretto. Chiaretto, to me, is one of the most interesting of all Italian rosatos. I love it because it has a lot of fullness of flavor, as well as being quite light to drink on a hot summer day. Now, I'm imagining, Erika, that on these hot days when you're finished in the office or your sister's finished in the cantina, you like to go down and cool off by the lake. I'm imagining L'Aziz and Bardolino itself and all those lovely restaurants along the waterfront, people out in boats. These are wines to really enjoy and in this delightful place where you live and work.
But honestly, we are enjoying the Chiaretto all year long because what makes this wine unique is that it is a very easy drink wine. So Chiaretto, it's amazing when it's paired together with a pasta, but it is much more amazing when it is matched with a pizza. So you can enjoy a glass of Chiaretto with a pizza in the winter time as well. Of course, now in this time with these hot days, Chiaretto is when you have a chilled glass of Chiaretto, it makes you feel much better. But it is not just a summer wine, of course, especially both the Chiaretto Classico and the Coraline. They are both mineral wines, so they are wines that keep the mouth clean. So if you try them with fat foods, like it could be an hamburger or fried foods, fried vegetables, fried fish, they keep the mouth refrigerated and clean. So this is why we love to call them exactly table wines. Of course, they are DOC wines, but they are wines to enjoy every day at the table.
Okay, wines to above all enjoy with food. Now, let's talk about the foods of your area, of the Bardolino area, but of the Veronese, the Cucina Veronese. Some of the favorite dishes, some of the dishes that you and your family would eat typically at home, and foods that go well with your wines.
Of course, about Bardolino, we love to match this red wine with the bread with salami. Salame, the soppressa veronese, is the most popular local cold cut of Verona, because in our tradition we were used in the past to have the farmers had always the pork, and they were used during the winter time to prepare the cold cuts. So the typical merenda of the farmers, so the break time they have in the mid morning. was Bardolino wine with the bread with salami. So we keep this tradition during the harvest time as well. So when we are harvesting in September, the guys have normally at 10 in the morning, they have a second breakfast with bread and salami. This is a tradition we love to keep on. Of course, Bardolino, it's a fresh wine. It is amazing paired together with fish, especially with very delicate fish like just a grilled fish, because Bardolino, it's an elegant wine. It doesn't cover the flavor of the foods you are eating. Of course, here we have the fish of the lake. Like the lucio, tinca. So the most popular main course here on the Lake Garda is the risotto with tinca. That is a risotto that has a lot of taste because this fish is prepared with herbs and aromas, of course. And so both the Chiaretto and Bardolino are very nice put together with this wine.
That sounds delicious. I've not had that, so that would be typical in a lakeside restaurant.
Yeah, sure. These are really typical foods. Of course, we are in our tradition. For example, my mother is able to prepare the risotto with tinca, the risotto with fish of the lake. During the winter time, for example, the main course of Verona, the main food, the most popular and typical food of Verona is the bollito with the pera, so the boiled meat with this pera is a special sauce that is made with bread, parmesan, and it has a long cook. It takes about 3-4 hours to make this sauce, and this sauce is normally served with boiled meat. Bardolino is the perfect wine for the.
Oh, I've enjoyed the pera in Verona. It is so typical of Verona. Outside of your area, you'll never see the pera.
No, but you have to try it because pera, it's love at first taste.
Yeah, with simple boiled meats.
Yeah.
Again, that Bardolino helping to cut the richness of the dish.
Yeah, because we are used to enjoy the Bardolino fresh in the summertime, but in wintertime we serve the Bardolino at room. We are used to serve the Bardolino at room temperature. Bardolino has an evolution during its life, and so it became spicier when the temperature outside it's cooler. So the spiciness is amazing when you enjoy this wine together with such a warm dish like the bollito with pera.
Yes, that sounds absolutely delicious. And some wonderful cheeses from Montebaldo as well.
Sure, the Monte Veronese is the most, Monte Veronese is the most popular, the most famous cheese of Montebaldo. It has different aging, and of course, it's our favorite cheese. I love it both the young, like it could be the fresh cacciatella, or the vecchio, the stravecchio, that are very intense cheeses.
Sure. And again, wonderful with your wines.
Sure, especially with the Bardolino.
Well, Erika, it's been wonderful to talk to you this morning, to gain a sense of where you are. I hope our listeners have been transported to your wine estate and to Lake Garda, imagining a heat that is perhaps excessive at the moment. And I'm hoping it won't be too excessive and the vines can survive. Vines are very durable, I know, but nonetheless, this is a very challenging time for wine growers with the lack of water as well. So I hope that the summer proceeds well and you have a very good harvest. Now, can our listeners, if they find themselves in the area, visit the wine estate?
Of course, we are here on our website. You can find all the information to book your wine tasting. Our wine tasting is an experience to taste our wines together with some local cheeses and cold cuts, of course, like Salame and the Monte Veronese. So if you are here around, we really love to welcome anyone who wants to join us. And thank you so much, Mark, because it was a great pleasure to be here. And I really hope to take you here on these hills in the hot days, of course. And I really hope to, now you have the wish to come here on the Lake Garda.
I really have the wish to come and visit and see Lake Garda again and visit the Marchesini wine estate. So thank you, Erika. I hope to see you soon. Grazie.
Grazie. Thank you so much, Mark.
Grazie. A presto.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Please remember to like, share and subscribe right here or wherever you get your pods. Likewise, you can visit us at italianwinepodcast.com. Until next time, chin chin.
Guys, I'm Joy Livingston and I am the producer of the Italian Wine Podcast. Thank you for listening. We are the only wine podcast that has been doing a daily show since the pandemic began. This is a labor of love and we are committed to bringing you free content every day. Of course, this takes time and effort, not to mention the cost of equipment, production, and editing. We would be grateful for your donations, suggestions, requests, and ideas. For more information on how to get in touch, go to italianwinepodcast.com.